the first 2 or 3 years of a child's life is really important in terms of their social and emotional development, particularly the bonds that they make with their mums and or with their dads. And that this is really important in terms of the kind of resilience and kind of character traits that these kids are going to develop later on. So, while there's been a lot of focus on sort of childcare from age 2 or age 3 in the news recently, our report is really sort of saying that actually parenting is also really important in terms of explaining the sort of educational inequalities that we see even before kids start school.
Well, let's chat to Dr. Amanda Gummer, who's a psychologist who specialises in child development. Amanda, welcome. What is bonding? Is it just familiarity, being in the same room, looking over, connecting eyes, or is it something more than that? Is it a link of trust?
It is exactly a link of trust. It's that security and safety that children feel when they can trust the adult that they're with.
How do you get there?
There's lots of routes to it, but it is a question of spending time. It's things like eye contact, cuddles, and shared activity as well. There's lots of things that parents can do to help spend time with their children and help them engage.
What's the biggest impediment to it happening?
I think in the very early years, I think parental stress and anxiety and things like postnatal depression can really hinder it. And parents who feel overwhelmed by having their new baby can be emotionally unable to respond appropriately to the needs of their children. So, I mean, I'm a big advocate of a sort of parent-centred parenting approach, so that you look after the parents, make sure they're okay, and then they're able to then bond properly with the children.
Oh, you see, you think it might actually be that the parents have problems themselves. They might be unemployed. They might have a mental illness. They might have certain stresses in their life, which mean that even if they wanted to, they couldn't bond with a kid.
Yeah, and those stresses do get in the way of that natural maternal bonding or paternal bonding, because the parents don't have the emotional resources, because they're so stressed with everything else that they don't have the emotional resources to focus on the children and respond appropriately to their needs.
Okay.
But I don't want this to turn into another stick for parents to have to beat themselves with, because it's not about making parents feel bad that they're not doing something, because they get that all the time, and that's not helpful.
What are the consequences? I mean, we all know the story of the impossible child. Remember, that was 2 or 3 years old and would scream and would just seem to be the unhappiest kid in the world, that ends up in adulthood that is the most mild-mannered, friendly adult, and you get stories vice versa, don't you? So what are the consequences if one can generalise?
Okay, well, I remember being absolutely shocked when I saw the brain scans of a child who'd suffered neglect.